Tough news out of Green Bay today as Packers wide receiver Jordy Nelson has torn his ACL in the preseason game against the Steelers. Horrible news for the Green Bay Packers. I mean, obviously Jordy Nelson now basically undraftable for fantasy purposes. I suppose it's hypothetically possible that he could come back, but we're not going to bank on that for fantasy value anyway. He is undraftable in pretty much any type of format other than a dynasty league or something where you might be able to keep him down the road. If you get him late in your draft, keep him for next year type of a thing. But yeah, this is definitely not a good situation, although it is helpful a little bit to a couple other players in the Green Bay offense. Randall Cobb's going to move up from being about 10th, 11th, 12th, somewhere in that range at wide receiver, and I've got him moving up to number 7 at the wide receiver position now. I think he's going to become the wide receiver 1 there. I see a couple more catches going his way and probably some more red zone looks as well, so that's a good thing. But the player who's really getting the biggest boost is Davante Adams. Now, Davante Adams was kind of projected to be the wide receiver 3 for Green Bay, which was going to produce borderline fantasy numbers for the most part this season. Probably have a couple of big weeks, a couple of really small weeks where he doesn't really do much. So some inconsistency there before this. Now I think he's moving up to being a player that you kind of have to expect to be at least a wide receiver 2, if not a borderline wide receiver 1, depending on how things go. Davante Adams has a lot of physical talent, so I am interested to see what he's going to do now with his bigger role in the offense. A couple other players that you might want to keep your eye on. Ty Montgomery, the rookie for the Packers, could potentially see more playing time. I'm not sure that you really would consider him to be like a big, step in and instantly become a fantasy star type of player, but he does have some value, at least in dynasty formats, and he could be a player that breaks out. Another one, Jeff Janis, is another player who could potentially step into that role. We're just not quite sure exactly what's going to happen with Green Bay at this time, so I think you can take a flyer on either of those guys late in your draft and possibly get something out of them, but we just, like I said, you don't really know exactly what's going to happen. The other thing here, obviously, Aaron Rodgers is affected by this, right? Jordy Nelson has been one of the top 5 wide receivers in the NFL for quite a few years now, and he's been Aaron Rodgers' favorite target. Randall Cobb's obviously been there, and he's definitely produced good numbers as well, so I'm not expecting Aaron Rodgers to have a huge drop-off or anything like that, but it's certainly enough to make me drop him just a little bit on my rankings. I put out a video yesterday that said that Aaron Rodgers was my number 1 overall quarterback, so now I am actually going to drop him down to number 2 under Andrew Luck. I said that they were pretty close to begin with, and I think that, losing your top target at wide receiver is enough for me to move Aaron Rodgers down below Andrew Luck, down to number 2. So there you have it, guys. That's kind of the quick fantasy update for the Packers. Not really sure that Eddie Lacy's going to see more touches or anything like that. It's possible he might get more receptions out of the backfield, so that might boost him up a little bit for PPR. But again, I've still got Eddie Lacy ranked really high in any format. He's my number 3 overall player this year, so it's hard for me to really move him up from there. That being said, guys, that's the Packers update. Hopefully you guys are learning a lot from these little videos that we're putting out, and hopefully you're enjoying them. If you are, please do me a favor, hit that like button, and of course subscribe to the channel. I'll try and do more of these news updates as I can as far as important fantasy updates go. So like I said, I really hope that you guys are enjoying these. Thank you so much for your time. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you guys again soon here on the Fantasy Football Swagger Show.